Hi, I'm Pete Andresen with Andresen and Associates, and I had a couple of slides I wanted to share with you, a couple of images, a couple of graphs. Basically, the bottom line is this: the Federal Reserve's efforts to contain inflation appear to be working nicely, actually, and right along with historical standards. I mean, it was a bit abrupt, a bit extreme. I don't think they were aware that inflation was happening as much as it was, but when they got on it, it seems to be working. And a soft landing, which is historically really rare, does seem to be more likely at this point. The details. Okay, since I'm giving you graphs, this is information about what we think is happening in the financial markets now and in the future. Nobody has a crystal ball. These are estimates. Different clients will have different results, and the financial markets can go way down. So, my opinions in no way guarantee investment success. Investing is always a tumultuous and uncertain process. Short answer right now. At this point, it appears that the Fed will engineer a soft landing without a recession. That has never, I think it happened in the 1960s, maybe, but not since then. It's historically unlikely, but it is more possible now. Inflation is declining delightfully by most measures. I am aware that there's some news sources out there that will basically shriek fake news about anything or muddle the waters or cloud the picture or whatever. But the bottom line is inflation in general is going down. Not in food yet, but it's out there. And yet, and here's the thing that suggests a soft landing, employment is strong. The result of that is that greed is back big. Everybody is looking towards a bright and bountiful um, future on the sunlit uplands, like Winston Churchill said. Um, can't get there fast enough, put it in there, shovel that stuff in there. The financial markets are predicting wonderful things, and yet the experts are less positive. Okay, inflation. This is why I'm doing a Zoom call, not my standard yak. Wanted to use these graphs. Inflation is coming down nicely, and the expectation of inflation is declining nicely. And that's big because when the expectation of inflation becomes cemented in, that's when you get, 14% long-term treasury yields, and that's when things get tough. So inflation is coming down. Year over year inflation rates, quite nice. It's working. Can't say that it's going to keep working, but it's working. Now, most of the time, declining inflation it's the light at the end of the tunnel, which is also the oncoming train. It usually indicates rising unemployment and the beginnings of a recession, but we're not seeing that yet. It may still appear, but at the moment, if you look, lower unemployment is still happening. Now, the other caveat here is if you look at this graph carefully, and I invite you to do that, um, the lowest unemployment rates are reached right before we hit a recession. So we still could plunge into a recession, but right now it's looking awfully good. Now, this really fascinates me. If you look at this thing, it looks kind of like a what? An iguana, let's say. Okay, with the head over on the right as you see it. Now, the reason for that labor force participation rate being so high in, say, 1990 is it's the baby boomers. It's the boomers were all working in 1995. Everybody's fully employed. And now we've had COVID, we've had all kinds of challenges, but um, people have gotten discouraged. So the labor participation rate is not as high as it was, let's say, back in 1990, but it's still pretty good. The other thing that really fascinates me is that it's an arms race. The more people you put in, um, to the labor force to participate, especially when women entered the workforce back in the 60s. You saw inflation rise, and so it's an arms race, and more employment equals a gradual slippery slope for more inflation. Final graph. Right now, the stock markets and the financial markets are just really about making money. The thought that they might be wrong, that a recession might be out there somewhere, is so far in the rearview mirror. So let's enjoy it. We're being conservative. Um, what happens next? Well, we find out, don't we? Let's say that this thing is fueled like some of the people are saying, like the bond king, Bill Gross is saying that excess cash is fueling a delay of a recession. No, we'll have a recession in 2024. We'll find out. I'm accepting, meanwhile, that we might have to play catch up with our money because I am behind the curve if this thing is not going to have a recession. But not yet. We still might see a recession, and we will probably see some bargains out there. And at that time, I intend to buy, and that's much better than catch up. Much more fun, although much more emotionally challenging. This much greed usually creates later bargains. So that's the plan. Let me know what you think. Give me a call. Tell me if you want me to tweak anything. Meanwhile, on we go, regardless. Thank you very much for watching, and blessings.